Hi everyone, in this video we're going to learn how to register a domain name. This video assumes that you've already gone through the process of brainstorming names and that you've got several names to try out to see if they're available. There are many vendors you can use to register your domain name. Three of my favorite services include Namecheap.com, Domain.com, and GoDaddy.com. My favorite of these three is definitely Namecheap.com because of its great user interface. I consider Domain.com a close second, and while I recommend GoDaddy, it's a very distant third choice for me. I find their user interface more difficult to use, and I really don't like how they upsell you on the checkout process. When selecting a domain registrar, one factor to consider is the level of support they provide. I'm very comfortable that these registrars will provide a great level of service for you. Each of these registrars offers some way to contact them, such as a 1-800 number, live chat, or email support. I used to think that it was very important for any company to have a 1-800 number, but in my experience with domain name registrars, I found this to be unnecessary. Live chat or email support is more than adequate, with live chat being my preference if they don't have a 1-800 number. I've never actually had a need to contact any of my domain name registrars. I have a different opinion about 1-800 numbers for web hosting providers though, and consider them vital in that case. We'll discuss that more in a later video. Now, there are probably 100 other vendors that you can register domain names through. The vendors I've mentioned here are registrars that I use and recommend. You should do your own research, however, to find the best choice for you. A really great website to check out is webhostingtalk.com. This website is a forum that discusses nothing but web hosting and things related to web hosting, including domain name registrars. Namecheap and Domain.com are generally mentioned with high regard. There are a number of other registrars discussed as well, so please do a little bit of research on your own to see what might best suit your needs. For the purposes of this tutorial, we'll be looking at Namecheap. If you choose another registrar, you should be able to follow along quite well since most domain registrars are pretty much the same in what they do. Their user interfaces might be different, but usually not by too much. So let's go to Namecheap.com. Here's the home page. You can see a few tabs that provide options for registering a domain name, transferring a domain name, and working with WhoisGuard. In this section, you can enter a domain name to search its availability. And below that is some advertising information for other services that they offer. Okay, we're going to start with the domain name search in this search box right here. All you need to do is enter a domain name into this search box. So I'll enter in the first name I'd like to check, which is DIYsurvivalkits.com. You don't have to type in the .com, it's right here. If you want to check other top-level domain names, click the down arrow and you can see that you can search for any of the extensions listed here by checking Search All, or just the extensions you want by checking the boxes. Once you've selected the extensions that you want, click outside the box, then click Search or hit the Enter button. When the search is completed, you get a list of results indicating the availability of your request and the price for the domain name and extension combinations. Our results tell us that DIY Survival Kits is available and that it will cost $10.69 per year to register. Look just below this first result in the popular extensions section, and we can see that a number of other extensions are also available for varying prices. In that section, we can see that .net, .org, .info, and many others are available. Here's another section called Additional Extensions, showing even more extensions and their prices. Okay, now I want to show you what happens when your domain is already taken. Let's open up a new tab and go to Namecheap.com. Then search for survivalkits.com. Here we can see that survivalkits.com is already taken. In fact, there are a number of variations of that domain name and extensions that are taken. However, there are some extensions that are available, and you could secure them if you wanted to. I'm not going to do that, even though the keyword survival kits would be great to have in a domain name for the purposes of my website. Unfortunately, the extensions available are just too obscure. They're probably not given as much weight in Google as a .com extension, and they're not as well known as other more popular extensions. That translates into a lack of credibility that could hurt you in ways that are beyond having diminished rankings in Google as compared to a .com domain name. In other words, people typically trust business websites that end in a .com the most. Any business website that uses a .net or any other extension will typically not have the same immediate level of trust, since it's essentially a secondary extension. The big picture here is always try to get a .com extension if possible. If you can't find a good domain name using a .com extension, then work your way down the list you see here, starting with .net and so on. However, unless you are a non-profit organization, you might want to stay away from the .org, since that's the type of business people typically associate with that extension. Okay, now let's go back to the Namecheap tab, where we've got the results for the DIYsurvivalkits.com. I wanted to show you a few other features before we move on and purchase the domain name. Look at this section here. You'll see that there is an Add to Cart button, so you can add that domain name to your cart immediately. Here's a small star icon, and then a shortlist hyperlink. Actually, clicking on the star icon and clicking on the hyperlink that says shortlist both do the same thing. They add your domain name to the shortlist, so you don't have to try to remember what you searched for if you continue searching for other names. Let's click on the star icon so you can see what I mean. Now you can see that DIYsurvivalkits.com has been added to the shortlist section here. You can remove it by clicking on the trash can icon, or going back over here and clicking on the star icon or the shortlist hyperlink. Okay, let's look at this tab called Search History. This provides you with all of your past searches during your session on this website. The last feature I want to show you before we purchase our domain name is located in this tab here, called Bulk Domain Search. Click on that tab. On this page, you can search the availability of up to 50 domain names with just one search. That's really nice if you've got a number of domain names you're interested in. It saves a lot of time. Now I have created a list of other domain names that I'm interested in. Here's that list I created in my text editing software. Please note that you need to be sure you only have one domain name per line. So type one domain name with this extension, then hit the Enter key before you type the next domain name, just like this. You can also manually enter these names into the bulk domain search by typing them in here. For me though, it's sometimes easier to create a text document and get it the way I want it, and then just copy and paste the names like this. Highlight all the names, then right-click and choose Copy. Click in the bulk domain search box, right-click again, then click Paste. Now that all your names are in this search box, click the Search button. Here are the results from our search. We can see that a few of the domain names that I came up with are available, and some are not. I'm going to add DIYemergencykits.com to my shortlist by clicking here. And I'm not going to do anything with the other available domain names. For now, it isn't important that I have the .net extensions. However, the reason I chose DIYemergencykits.com is because it's closely related to my first choice of DIYsurvivalkits.com. So I could redirect DIYemergencykits.com back to DIYsurvivalkits.com if I wanted to. That's a more advanced topic though, and we'll cover that in a later video. Okay, now I've got two domain names that I want to purchase, so let's go ahead and do that. Click the Add to Cart button, and you'll be directed to the shopping cart page. This page shows the domain names that you added and the total cost for each of those domain names. Here you can see that the cost for this domain name is $10.69. There's also an ICANN fee of 18 cents. Below that, you'll see some extra options relating to websites and web hosting that you can ignore. Here you've got a free WhoIsGuard for 1 year. The purpose of the WhoIsGuard option is to take your contact information off the publicly available domain name registration information. Your contact information is then replaced with the registrar's information. In this case, that would be Namecheap, or whatever their corporate name is. The potential benefit of this feature is to stop spammers from knowing that you actually own this domain name. However, the value of that is somewhat questionable because there are a million other ways spammers can find you. I look at it this way. It's one small amount of protection to help potentially reduce spam, but it's not a guarantee that it will. There is some question about how Google looks at WhoisGuard. There is some suspicion that Google does not particularly like WhoisGuard since so many websites of poor quality content are popping up. These poor quality websites have been created by entities who also choose to use the WhoisGuard feature to hide their identity. In other words, Google may be starting to associate WhoisGuard with spammer type people. This is not proven though. It's really only suspicion by some experts. So for now, I'm going to keep the WhoisGuard option in place, knowing that I can remove it or renew it as necessary. Look here and you can see that you can adjust the amount of time for your WhoisGuard. I'm going to leave it at 1 year. Here you can choose to remove it altogether. I'm going to leave it in place, as I previously mentioned. Alright, the next couple items we'll see are options that we don't need for now. So I'm just going to ignore those. You can always add these options later if you find out that you need them for whatever reason. Now that I've got my domain name selected, let's go ahead and check out. You can see here that there are two checkout options. There's an Express Checkout button and a Checkout button. If this is your first time at Namecheap, either option requires you to create an account. Once you've created an account, the Express Checkout button provides for a faster way to check out since it knows your account information, including your preferred payment method. Go ahead and click the Checkout button. On this screen, you can enter your information here. You'll need to create a username and a password, and then provide your first and last name and email address. Once you completed that, you can either leave this box ticked if you want to subscribe to the Namecheap newsletter, or untick it if you don't. Lastly, click the Create Account button. Since I've already got an account with Namecheap, I'm going to log in over here by entering my username and password. Now I'll click Login. If you just created an account, you should see a screen like this. Your screen may not show any contact information, and you'll need to fill that out. All you really need to do is fill out the required information in this first Registrant Contact section. In the sections below, you can click on these links to copy information from other sections. So if you fill out the first section, you'll be able to quickly copy that into other sections without having to retype everything. Since my information is already filled out, all I need to do is verify that it's correct. Then I click the Next Step button up here. On this screen, you can see a number of options we'll need to be sure are correct. In this first section, it recognizes that we're purchasing more than one domain. It's giving us an option to have different settings for each domain name. In my case, I want the settings for each domain name to be the same, so there's nothing for me to do. If you are registering more than one domain name and you want different options for each domain name, just click this hyperlink. In the next section, we have to choose our domain auto-renew settings. You can either choose automatically renew before expiration, which is the recommended option, or you can choose don't renew automatically. I always choose to automatically renew. If you don't automatically renew, you might lose your domain name and never be able to get it back. When it comes to domain names, you don't want to take a chance of losing a valuable resource just because you forgot to renew it. When your domain name registration is about to expire, you'll receive reminders that your domain name is coming up for auto-renewal. That will provide you with an opportunity to not renew it if you don't need it any longer. You can also change your renewal settings at any time in your account settings. This next section is WhoisGuard Auto Enable. Just because you kept the WhoisGuard option on your checkout page does not mean that you enabled it. You'll need to tick this box if you want that option enabled. I do want this option enabled, so I'll tick here. You can also change this option at any time in your account settings. The next section is Name Server Settings. Here you have two options. Use our free name servers or use custom name servers. Unless you have a specific reason to use a custom name server, always choose Use our free name servers. The next section is URL forwarding settings. Go ahead and leave the default settings as they are. The last section is email forwarding settings. You can also leave these default settings as they are. Be sure, though, that you have a valid email address listed in this box so that Namecheap can send you emails regarding your account. Don't miss this or you might not get important account information. Okay, click the Save and Continue button here. On this screen, you'll have an opportunity to review your order. You'll also need to provide your payment information. Since I already have an account, my payment information comes up automatically. Your screen will look different if you haven't set up a payment option yet. Go ahead and choose a payment option and then complete the checkout process. After you've made your payment, you should see some sort of an invoice like this. I would suggest printing off and then downloading the receipt just to be safe. First, I'll print it. Now I'll download it. When you download it, you'll need to save it somewhere. Choose the Save option, then click OK. The file will be downloaded and saved in a temporary folder. You'll want to move that to a more permanent location. So open the file by right-clicking on it and choose Open. Then go to File and choose Save As. From this dialog box, you can save it wherever you like. You can put it on your desktop or whatever folder you might have in your hard drive. So go ahead and save that anywhere you want to. When you're done saving, you can close out of your PDF viewer. Alright, that's all there is to securing a domain name. Now go ahead and move on to the next video.